I'm Stephanie Stahl. I'm the Managing Director here at CMI. So happy to have you all here with us today. We are going to talk about award-winning content, and this is going to be both fun and inspirational. You're going to have a lot of messages and guidance to take away today because we've got three really great speakers today. So the Content Marketing Awards is a program that we run here at CMI. It is one of the longest and largest programs of its type. We love to celebrate excellence in content marketing, whether it's strategy or content creation or visual storytelling. We have more than 60 categories that we recognize each year. And today we're going to talk about what it takes to win some of those. Before I welcome our guest speakers on, please take a look at this slide. You can ask questions at any time. Look for that Q&A box on your console. Pop your question in there, and we will try to answer as many as we can today. Also, the slides will, move without you needing to do anything. So just sit back, relax, take in all of the great guidance you're going to get today. But look for the paperclip icon as well. And when we're done, if you want to click on that, there are some resources for you to take along with you today. And in about 24 hours or so, we'll send you a link to today's live session that will be recorded. We'll send you the link to it on demand, and you can watch again or share with one of your colleagues if you'd like. All right. Please welcome our guests today from all over the place today. It's an all-star cast. We've got Faison, who is the CEO and founder of Caspian Studios, an award winner for a fictional B2B podcast featuring a murder mystery set in HR. Hello, Ian. How are you?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, super excited to chat with everyone today.
Great to see you. We've got Debbie Fries, Associate Director of Influencer and Social Media at Top Rank Marketing, which has won an award for a project on B2B social influence called Across the Socialverse. It's so good to have you here, Debbie. Welcome.
Well, so nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Megan Gilbert, who is the VP and Executive Director at Fortune Brand Studio, which won multiple awards for the Ecopreneurs project for Salesforce. Welcome, Megan. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm great.
So great to have you all here. Let's take a quick look at some of your award-winning work. Stay tuned here.
So I think the Content Marketing Awards are really special.
It's a friggin' big deal.
To be recognized among this group of content professionals who have been really actively elevating our industry means a lot to us.
I was so, thrilled to be nominated because it is industry peers. It is people who I, look up to and respect and have made really cool stuff, have pushed the boundaries of what's possible in marketing.
For the Ecopreneurs to be nominated for so many content marketing awards, it's an extremely prestigious honor for us. We love this project so much, and we love that other people love it.
To be recognized for the awards just shows that our peers liked our work, and ultimately, you have to be able to make something that people love.
All right. Fantastic. Do you like seeing yourselves on video? Was that okay?
Always weird.
No, that's great. That was great. Okay. So let's start off with what makes award-winning content. I'd like to hear from each of you about your goals for your project, maybe what made the content unique, how you kind of stood out or rose above the noise, because there's a lot of great content out there these days. And ultimately, how you measured it, what were your metrics for your ROI? I'm going to start with you, Debbie. Sorry, I didn't word that fast enough. But yeah, let's start with you. Let's talk about Socialverse and what were your goals for the project?
Yeah, so this was a brand new program. We were looking to reach new audiences and generate some buzz around a new product that Sprinkler had. It was a self-service product, and they partnered with us to do this Socialverse, a Netflix kind of like documentary style masterclass. And we were looking to bring in thought leaders, but we also wanted the lineup to include customers and internal experts. And our goals were around awareness and reach, engagement, of course, attendance. You want lots of people to come and see it, right? But ultimately, of course, they want product trials and demos. And then ancillarily, we also wanted to develop relationships with those influencers. And that did happen. We brought in Mari Smith, who, you know, you'll probably all know as the Facebook queen, Jay Bear, who everybody wants to hug and just love, and he's got so much energy. And of course, the fabulous content queen, Ann Hanley. And then, you know, AI is the buzz. So we brought in Paul Roetzker from the Marketing AI Institute. So lots of fun, great experts. So the idea here was to let people learn, and the results showed it. We had 5,000 event registrations, and we reached 23 million people with over 100,000 engagements, excuse me. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and this is an award secret here. There were better results, but I can't disclose them. The client won't let me. But we did have those in the award entry. And so the people that read the entry knew that this was extremely successful for the client.
Fantastic. That is quite the cast that you had with Jay and Ann and Paul. And I think a lot of people in this community who are on this webcast probably know some of those people and why they are such big influencers. And was it hard trying to figure out who to have, like who to choose? Because we've got a lot of wonderful experts in this content marketing community. It sounds like you have tapped into some of the best, but what was the thought process there?
Well, we wanted people who were big on social, obviously, because we are selling a social tool. But we did go back and forth quite a bit, you know, like, can we afford this person, you know, and ultimately it came down to who is dynamic on screen and also who's got that great following. And then we wanted a mix, right? So like Mari's got the Facebook group, you know, and Jay and Ann are awesome on LinkedIn. Well, they all are, but we wanted a little bit of a mix. And Paul was kind of the dynamic in that he didn't have as big of a following, but he had that marketing AI expertise that we really wanted to call out.
Excellent. Okay. Ian and Megan, you got any questions about this for Debbie? It looked like you were about to ask one for a second there, Ian.
Oh, I mean, I have a million. Yeah, so how much did you end up shooting? Like how much, I mean, I don't know if you know the exact number, but, or the amount of time, but how much did you end up shooting for the whole project?
Oh, wow. Like a lot. I don't know the exact number. I don't. I know the influencers were each scoped for about half a day. So we did scenes inside. So it wasn't just interviews. So it was also scenes outside and inside, so we could understand, you know, where they live and where they work and how they work.
That's so cool. Yeah, the reason why I ask is just documentary is so hard. You know, like you talk about the stuff that, you know, you just have to dig in and actually do the work. And that's was so cool to me. I mean, it's such an amazing campaign. And of course, using, you know, Socialverse to you know, take inspiration from Marvel is awesome too, but just seems like so much work into it. I can't imagine what you left on the editing room floor.
Yeah, and luckily I didn't have to do the editing, but I know it was a lot. And we just had such a great team that they were really thoughtful about, you know, oh, so-and-so is wearing the wrong color. Let's change our background quickly, or let's take an extra half hour and go out and get this additional, you know, shot. It was so nice to have that depth in it.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, I think we've got a video here to play. Let's take a look a little bit more at Socialverse.
I've been in marketing for over 20 years now, leading marketing at several technology and consumer brands. And like many of you, I have witnessed the rapid evolution of social media. What used to be just a virtual gathering place has now become a digital force that can make or break human relationships.
There are so many disruptions shaping the Socialverse right now, and it feels like it's all happening in real time, doesn't it?
You know, there are a number of disruptions that are shaping the Socialverse today, but I think the biggest one has to be the giant elephant in the room, which is artificial intelligence, or AI.
Right, fantastic. Okay, we'll get back to some more questions about Socialverse in just a bit. Ian, you're up. I would like to hear about your planning, your goals, your ROI. I did read something about when you first started pitching this idea of this murder mystery, that some execs were like, are you sure about this? Good luck with that crazy idea. Kind of talk us through that.
Yeah, for sure. So we, for those of you who don't know, so I spent my formative years in the Army. And so I was an HR leader in the Army, and I got out and have been in marketing and content ever since. And so I had this idea rattling around for a murder mystery set in HR for a bunch of different reasons. And so like what we looked at was first and foremost, like, HR is always the butt of every joke, you know, Toby from The Office, and, you know, on and on and on. And we're like, let's make, you know, HR people are not the butt of every joke. So let's make like a really cool protagonist that like is, you know, sort of a three-dimensional character that's like a real, you know, hero type figure, but has a bunch of flaws and everything like that. And I really wanted to make someone who was like 30 years old, who'd been like job hopping her whole career, who's, you know, everybody turns 30 and you hit that phase in your life where you kind of don't know what you've been doing. You feel like you're an expert in business because you've been doing it for 8+ years, and you don't know what's next. And to put a character there who, you know, to make that person go to a new job and make this job something where they can't leave. And we're like, oh, well, we gotta keep her here so she can't quit. She's a serial quitter. And, you know, we'll make it a company that's actually made of assassins. Spoiler alert if you haven't listened to episode 2. And so, and now she has to solve this murder mystery. And so we had this idea for a story like that. And I think it would get at sort of all of the pieces of HR, which are so complex, which is like, every time there's a problem, it's like, hey, it's a person. That means it's people. That means it's HR. So murder mystery, you go deal with it, HR. That just felt very sort of natural. And so we pitched that idea, murder mystery set in HR, and, you know, wouldn't you believe it, everyone was like, that's absolutely insane. So definitely don't do that, but, you know, maybe we could just make something regular. And and so I connected with Ryan Benici, who I'd known, and he was the CMO at Gympass, and which is now WellHub. And I was like, hey, I have this really crazy idea, and he was like, I love crazy ideas. And I was like, it's a murder mystery set in HR. And he was like, that sounds awesome. And, you know, they sell into an HR audience. And it was like, hey, what does success for this look like? And I was like, let's try to make a hit. You know, let's swing for the fences. Let's cast Hollywood talent. Let's make this like something that could go viral. Let's give it a shot to be something that just, you know, the HR community loves. And also, if your mom wanted to listen to it, she could love. And also, if your daughter wanted to listen to it, she could love, and try to make, you know, not quite a 4-quadrant film because it's about murder, which, by the way, I see you 1-star reviews on Apple saying that it's not appropriate for children. I hear you. But you know, I thought that could have a chance and have a shot. And we'd made a really successful series called The Hacker Chronicles. That was sort of like an empathetic look at hackers, with a partner, and with Tenable. And so I said, you know, hey, I think we could do this. And they were really just so excited about the project. Their team was amazing. And in terms of goals and reach and all that, I think we said our goal was like 50,000 listens. And I think we just passed 2 million. So yeah, it's been crazy. It hit #1 in fiction, in all fiction podcasts. So like compared to like Amazon and all these other studios that make fiction series, we're up to the 26th podcast in the world for a little bit. We got a feature from, we're the #1. If you go to the podcast app on Apple, we were like the #1 podcast in the tile for like a day. And and Kate Mara was amazing. Brett Gelman was amazing. The rest of the cast amazing. And it's a story that I think is just, it's a good, I like to say it's an easy drinking beer. It's just like a fun hang. The main character, Gemma, is just like a total trip. And it's a really good whodunit.
You make it sound so easy, and I know it wasn't, right? I'm sure a lot of time went into it. How much time went into doing it?
Yeah, you know, we'll get into Megan's project later, but Megan and I were talking before this about how, you know, in the B2B world, everything has to be done sort of right now. So I think we had the idea for a while, and we had an outline made for a while. But then once, you know, the dotted line got signed, I think we finalized it in like February, and then we were live September 1st. So that means like writing, casting, you know, everything. Unfortunately, we just have really good relationships with Hollywood. We've worked with a lot of different Hollywood actors, and worked with a lot of agents. We have an agent. So I think that we have a lot of advantages sort of in the Hollywood ecosystem there, that sort of made it all happen a lot faster. And, you know, writing is tough, and rewrites and all that. And, you know, I like to say that sort of there's a Venn diagram of like what actors want to do and what brands want to do. And like the middle of that Venn diagram is the smallest little sliver, and that's where murder and HR lives. And, you know, tons and tons of legal stuff. Anytime you do anything with any type of actor or influencer or anything like that, there's always going to be, you got to talk to a lot of lawyers and make sure everything is you know, really tight there. But you know, I think we ended up getting it out and getting it live, and there's definitely long nights behind the scenes and a lot of crazy stuff and edits and rewrites and fits and starts. But you know, we always sort of came back to the audience of like, could we make something really cool for HR that they're proud of and that they want to listen to? And I'll share just one anecdote really quick. We heard from a CHRO. She was driving up to Tahoe, and she was like, hey, I want to put on this podcast. It's just like Only Murders in the Building, which her and her daughter listen to. And her daughter was like, okay. So they're driving up to Tahoe, and they're listening to Murder in HR. And she said her daughter loved it. Her daughter's a teenager. And she's like, she actually asked me about work, you know, afterwards, like, is this like kind of what you do? And I've always thought, like, you know, if we can, you know, marketing is about creating connection, and like if you can get a teenager to talk to their mom about work, then I think we've done our job here.
It's fantastic. That's wonderful. In fact, it was your podcast that made me go and watch that show. Like, I had never seen that show. I think I'm maybe like the one person, cool, you know, on my team that hadn't seen it. So that prompted me to do so. So that was a nice little fit. So that's great. All right. I think we've got a video to show here. Let's give the audience a peek at this.
It's Gemma McNamara's first day at the AI-powered tech startup Piece of Ship.
As Employee Experience Manager, it's my job to help you all reach your full potential and make sure you're all thriving at work.
Everything is going great until her colleague Larry is electrocuted at the company all hands. And Gemma uncovers a dark secret.
Whoever finds this, my name is Gemma McNamara, and like the other 200 members of the company Piece of Ship, I was a witness to what seems to be murder.
Now, she and her chief people officer, Nicholas, are tasked with finding the murderer.
Well, it's simple, really. I mean, find the killer, you live. Don't find the killer, they will probably hunt us all down and kill us, including you.
Great. Love this promotion for me.
She must use her HR skills to investigate her toxic new colleagues.
I'll do the digging and find out what they were up to, under the guise of HR, doing the diligence after a traumatic event, and of course improving employee experience.
Without becoming the next victim.
Also, if you find the killer and the killer knows you know they're the killer, you will also likely die by the hands of said killer.
Jim Pass presents an original podcast murder mystery, Murder in HR, starring Kate Mara and Brett Kelman.
Love it. Love it. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to get to some more questions on the creativity behind it in just a minute. But now it's time to go to Megan to talk about the Ecopreneurs. Let our audience know here, you know, what went into this project, and how did you ultimately measure it? Like, what was the most important thing for ROI? Give us a scoop.
Yeah, I'll give you the scoop. So I love talking about Ecopreneurs. It's one of the biggest projects that I've ever personally worked on over my career, and everybody who worked on it said the same thing. It was a huge opportunity for Fortune Brand Studio, which is, our team, to really come in and show our documentary storytelling chops. We had previously done a podcast, a branded podcast with another partner about, the business of sustainability and really what that looked like. And it's something that our team really felt passionate about. We were able to do a lot of great audio interviews. This was over the pandemic, so everything was remote. We were in our, in our jammies interviewing, world leaders and startups about how we were going to solve the climate crisis together through, capital and through sort of, the business world, let's say. And so we, got a call from Salesforce, with whom we had relationships, just Fortune in general, and we were able to kind of be briefed on their goals. They had a major goal, right? And this was to start Salesforce Plus, which still exists, but this was just about to launch, the Netflix for business, as they were calling it, right? So this was something they really wanted to populate with content and really tell some interesting stories for the business audience. So really B2B focused, right? And they really, really wanted to get into a sustainability show and wanted to produce something that had a lot of high visual value, really had some on the ground filmmaking and storytelling. And so we were, thrilled and leapt at the chance to kind of pitch them and talk about how we would execute this. The topic was near and dear to our heart. We had the right production partners and folks that we could bring in. And, as Ian mentioned, our world was never the same since we said we could do it, because a month later I was in California, with my client on a boat with like urchin farmers and kelp forests. And, we hadn't left our house in 2 years. So this was a wild time right after the pandemic to do some on the ground storytelling. The goal really was to create this show that aligned with their brand values, mission and sort of team and ethos. So again, lucky upper funnel, great storytelling, really focusing on the Ecopreneurs, and really driving people to the platform. So each episode really lived on their platform. And we created not only the episodes, but we created full content hubs for each launch of every episode that lived on fortune.com. So it was a really nice ecosystem of how we could atomize all the great content that we had on the ground, and we were capturing on the ground as we traveled the world. We went to, we produced 11 episodes in 15 months, and went all over the world. So, Africa, Bahamas, Peoria, Illinois. We went to California, we went to Hawaii, we went to Italy, Peru, and it was just an incredibly, we were very blessed to be able to do this story, let's just say. ROI was get people on the platform, right? So we're like, okay, everything in our design on the hub page and related content was all designed to entice and get people to want to watch that full episode on their platform. So they were very prominent, click here to watch, over here. So we were driving traffic from the Fortune ecosystem over to their platform. And I'm happy to report, we were responsible. This series was responsible for 10% of total traffic to Salesforce Plus. So that's a huge metric for us in terms of driving traffic, but also we didn't, but Salesforce put up the first episode on YouTube, and it got 2.3 million views within the first month. And that was with no promotion, no paid promotion. It just was sitting on YouTube, and they just wanted to see, how that went. And I mean, for a branded content studio to put something up with no paid behind it and have that kind of metric blew our minds, and we always talk about it. So that's some of the ROI, and I'll share more later because there was tons and tons of ROI. So yeah. That's
fantastic. So it sounds like with Ian, he came up with this great idea and pitched it to a client. How involved was Salesforce in helping with this idea versus how much Fortune created the idea and pitched it to the client?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than we normally work, right? So we were really briefed and said, this is what we want to do. We want to, center the storytelling around these type of topics. And we came in and really collaborated with them as production partners and strategic partners to identify talent, create do all the research, do all the treatments, and say how we would not only execute the episode, but then these supporting hubs and distribution models within, the branded content, world were really attractive to them as well, because they really wanted to get that audience piece of the puzzle, because they were really starting from scratch. And folks go to Salesforce, all the time, right? But they're looking for different kinds of things. They might not be looking for this type of storytelling. And we could really help create that runway So we were really pitching, the holistic approach we were going to be taking to not only executing on the ground, but then the distribution sort of audience element and that traffic driving element. And so I think that as a package really helped us sell through, and we were successful. So we're grateful for the brief, believe me.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic. Mary just put a great question in the chat here for you, Megan. What was the journey after viewers arrived on the Salesforce platform, and who were the personas?
Right. So, you know what? I know much more about what happened in the Fortune world. We definitely shared metrics with each other, and we have, these beautiful wrap reports that half of it is proprietary. So, Debbie, I hear you with what we can share. But, the action really was that they engage with more of the Ecopreneurs series. So it's the #1 series on Salesforce Plus. It still is. And it actually, the last time we released something, I think was 2023 in April, I believe. I have to get my timing refreshed from that. But it is still the #1 episode, on their platform and things like that. So the journey wasn't necessarily hey, we want people to convert. But I will share, we did do some sentiment analysis, and we ran a study, and it was very customized, obviously, for Salesforce, and they were able to ask the questions they wanted and clearly define some of the things they were looking to find. And one of them was actually about purchase intent, and our series managed to move the needle in a significant way for purchase intent, which in branded content is amazing. And when you're in the awareness, playing in the awareness space, which is super important, and really our bread and butter, to have people who want to potentially engage with the brand on that kind of level was surprising and really great, because this is not about this. The episodes don't talk about any of their products. They don't talk about any of their offerings. They don't talk about anything to do with Salesforce. I think one of the Ecopreneurs mentioned their name in normal conversation, and that was basically it. So there was obviously branding on our pages, and they were on the platform, but I think they were taking a tour around and watching more shows, watching more episodes. So I don't know the personas, and I don't think we were actually briefed in on what that was, and if so, it was in 2021, so I can't remember.
I'm hearing something here. Yeah, I'm hearing all three of us, our programs were not explicitly branded, right? They weren't talking about the brand. They were giving people something that they wanted to see and hear.
I would say, we always talk about educate, inspire, and entertain. I think you could pretty squarely put each of our campaigns in that bucket, and I think that ultimately being very audience centric is clearly the key. Here it's just it's so obvious. It's marketing 101, but it's make something that you think your audience will love.
Well, it's also, and this is something I always say too, it's just a highly visual piece. All three of the pieces have a visual identity that really cuts through and connects with audiences. People are intrigued. They want to see more about it. Just from looking at the title of the podcast, I'm I need to know what this is. It's such a cool visual, something that cuts through, right? There's just so much, so much content everyone's sort of wading through and scrolling past. And, I think all three of these have a really, an instant connection visually. And then the human is at the center, right? So it's, you're seeing these experts, or you're seeing these personas and these characters come to life, or these exotic locations. It'll get you to stop and look at it.
For sure. What was that you said, Ian? Educate, inspire,
and entertain.
And entertain, right? Perfect. Yeah, love that. Love that. Fantastic. Okay, well, let's give the audience a little peek of Ecopreneurs in case they haven't seen it already. Check this out.
To me, being an ecopreneur really means one thing. You're looking at the most pressing issues on the planet, and you're looking at how to solve them as part of a business, keeping the planet at the center of every decision that you make.
I need to be able to look my kid in the face and say, your dad did everything he could with regard to climate change.
It's about finding a way to work in harmony with nature to get to our goals.
For the fight against climate change, we need big action.
If it's not left to us to disrupt this industry, who's it going to be left to?
We have to treat our planet better. We have to be better.
If you're not thinking about the future, if you're not going green now, what's all this work for?
Mitigating climate change is the business opportunity of our generation.
It is transcending borders, governments, communities, and that movement is going to change the world.
Fantastic.
I want to know how many people watch it just because of that tracking shot of the people walking through the valley. That is like stunning. It's
yeah,
incredible.
That's our hero image for the whole series, and I get like emotional like looking at it. It's so beautiful. I agree. So thank you.
Literally, I'm tearing up. I'm just like, it's so good. It's crazy.
It's so
Beautiful.
inspiring.
And a good segue to talk about the creative and strategic process, actually. That was lovely. All of these are very powerful projects. So let's talk about the creative process, maybe some challenges that you faced along the way. And of course, our audience always likes to know, how do you balance creativity with the business objectives, including the budget objectives, which is often quite a balance, right? So let's start with you, Debbie. Let's talk about the creative process for you.
Well, I think we kind of hit on this, but we want to reach marketers. We want to reach you, right? The people out here. And we know you're pretty savvy about all of this. And you understand that if I'm trying to sell you something, you know what's going on. So we put ourselves in our own shoes and said, what would I want to know? And I want to be educated, right? I want to learn things like we're doing right now. And so we prided ourselves in looking to provide value. That was the most important thing. And then we also partnered with AMA. So folks that wanted to get those continuing ed credits could also do that. And it was a team play. Like there were so many hands in this. I can't even tell you, video team, editors, designers, promotion teams, everybody had ideas. And on our part, we really saw it as a collaborative thing. So especially when we decided on our influencers, our thought leaders, we went to them and said, what are your ideas? Here's what we are thinking we want you to talk about, but tell us what you're hearing too. What would you like to let the socialverse understand and know? And then we really took the time to coordinate this so that it was really easy with everybody. If you really feel rushed and you don't feel comfortable, you're not going to give your best foot forward. And so we went to the influencers, we went to their towns, we went to their area and shot there so that they could not have to travel anywhere. They weren't doing it remote like this. It felt very intimate. And then new things came up. And so that was wonderful. I was talking to Ian about this ahead of time, that new ideas come up, the production. I did not do the editing production, but I can't even imagine how much was left on the floor. I do know that we have a really great blooper series that you can catch out there. That's pretty awesome of some of the fun stuff that came out. And that's another creative thing that comes out, right? Like that wasn't meant for the masterclass, but it was great for promotion and it was really fun to show.
I love that. I have not seen the blooper series. Now I'm going to go and watch that. That's fantastic.
I will share it with you later.
Okay, fantastic. I love that sort of co-creation though, with the influencers. That's a fantastic way to approach it. So, and I'm sure they all had amazing ideas because they were amazing experts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's so interesting for us was that it was very different where we had a really good collaboration, but what the collaboration came from was like we had an idea, and like the way that we pitch all of our projects are very much like a Hollywood project. It's like we have an idea for a story and a character and an arc, and the same way that you would pitch a movie or a TV show. Like we have a pitch deck, we have visuals, we have all this stuff. And that like me as the creator of the show and as an EP on the show, feel strongly that this should exist in the universe. And that part is I think really important to have like a singular view of like when you're creating something, especially fictional, where like I know I can see the show already before we make it, because like I can't explain all of the different intricacies, but like I could visualize it. When we went to Gympass, now WellHub, and said like, what do you want out of this project, their element was which is so brilliant, we want a show about toxicity in the workplace and how wellness is an antidote to toxicity. And so with just that framing, now we could work that into the story in a way that made it so much better. So what we did was every character has a toxic trait, including the main character. They use wellness to combat that. So, like the CEO double books every meetings and doesn't, and doesn't, pay attention to people's time, so on and so forth. But with that sort of like, you'd call it like studio note, with that sort of note, it transforms the piece from their side, which is what they wanted out of this, is to show that wellness is the antidote to toxicity. And that HR is the reason, is the impetus to get your organization to change. And if you can just make your CEO stop double booking meetings, maybe and maybe log onto the Comm app or go to WellHub, that those sort of things can be possible. And we did, there's branded there's brand mentions throughout the show because the startup piece of Ship actually uses WellHub, which is pretty cool. But I think that for me really helps in the creative process to like have a super clear vision of what you want as the creator, and then to work with the brand of like, what is the theme or the topic that you want to discuss, and what is the outcome that you want your audience to have at the end of this, rather than like starting with like, okay, let's start with ROI or let's start with reach or all that stuff. It's like, if you do a great job of the first part, the second part will come. I promise. Like, great shows find an audience if you market them hard enough. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to start with something that really feels true and authentic and interesting, and keeps the person on their toes the entire time and keeps them guessing. So I think that a clarity of vision of exactly what you want is pretty important.
I love that. I mean, really, you're starting with the pain point, and the pain point is toxicity in the workplace. Just like a lot of marketers think that way. Like, what is the pain that I'm trying to solve? What are we trying to solve for here? So I love that you start with that and not with, how big do we want to get? What's the RL of that? So that's fantastic.
Features and benefits, right? Like, that's the other thing. It doesn't start with features and benefits. The idea of like the journey of 1,000 steps starts, or of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Like, if your workplace is toxic, the first thing you can do is stop double booking meetings. Like, you can do that with WellHub or not. Like, you don't have to use WellHub for that. You could just do that. And I think that like that sort of stuff, that you get the value from the content, not just from the technology platform, like is part of the thing. You see the rise like 0-click content and all that stuff is like, just give them the message. Don't make them click 15 different ways to find the message. Like, just give it to them right then. And then, if they want to take the deeper step, they can, do that.
Excellent. How about you, Megan? Talk about the creative process and how you balanced it with the sort of the business objectives.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge was speed. We really wanted to work super quickly, and we do work quickly generally, but this was beyond the most minimal timeline possible to get this type of documentary storytelling, produced. And all of that. So we were overlapping. We just found new ways of working and really engaged the entire team, pulled in all of our production partners and aligned with the client constantly. I mean, we had Slack channels, we had weeklies, we had internal weeklies, we had external weeklies. We became, like I said, we really became one dream team where there was like the Salesforce crew, the Fortune crew, and then we had our production partners, Caspian Studios, who were on the ground with us, at all of the locations. We made sure we had the same, quality and people on the ground at every shoot as much as possible. It was during the time of COVID, so sometimes we had to sub somebody in here and there. But again, it was more about, so like myself being on the ground, doing with the client and with our Ecopreneurs who would help obviously flesh out all of the story. We had pre-pro going on back in New York with our team doing pre-interviews and fleshing out storylines and doing treatments on the next episode while we were on the ground in Peru shooting, these amazing, beautiful vistas and planting polylepis trees at 15,000 feet and with our clients. And then we were in post and getting approvals on, the previous one that we were wrapping up. So to do all of that stacked on top of each other and then make sure all the creative was not only excellent, but was, to spec and then working through revisions with a client that is super demanding and in a great way because they have really high standards, just like we did. So it was a good working, let's say, process. It just was the speed and the overlapping, the stacking up of the actual deliverables that we were managing. So our project management team and our program managers, led by my colleague Lauren Chumick, who presented with me a couple of years ago about this. She was really integral in just making sure everything was getting done. And it was wild to just kind of see how adaptive our team really is. And I love, like Ian, you mentioned before, you just, if it's easy, it doesn't feel like, it should feel a little bit not easy and a little bit difficult and a little bit iterative and new. I feel like as a creative person, like I thrive on that type of energy, like new ways to collaborate, keeping excellence at the center of everything, being really clear on what you want to execute. This is all to say is, like, before we even hit the ground, we had a full plan. We knew what we were going to say. We knew we were going to interview. And then we let those stories kind of, the images come in and fill out and color in it's like we had a coloring book and then they would just come to life in full color while we were there together. And we would get those amazing quotes and amazing feeling and the passion of these Ecopreneurs. We fell in love with all of them. We're still friends with all of them. I see, Tino and Florin every time they come to New York. And we're just part of that ROI that I wanted to bring up before I feel like this is going so quickly is, they saw a boost of interest in what they're doing. So Salesforce and Fortune, that was the best ROI we could possibly measure and see, beyond all the digital performance and sort of audience related and sort of sentiment analysis or purchase intent and all that great stuff. Really just seeing the Ecopreneurs get, new job applications, getting new funding, be able to use the assets that we created for them to use when they're, pitching and helping to get more people on board with their mission and help communicate their passion to the world. It honestly is something we're really, really proud of, and we'll never stop being proud of that, and we'll never stop supporting these individuals and sort of what their mission is.
That's fantastic. That's very commendable. You know what I liked about all three of these projects, and I was just connecting the dots in my head, is that they are appealing to us as marketers and brands, but they're also appealing to us as humans. Like all of us had something to learn from these in our day jobs, but also as humans. Like it's great. That's like a perfect mix. I don't know if that was an intent going into it for any of you, but certainly that was a result. So
definitely. I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was just going to say a quick thing, but this project really formulated our identity as a studio. We're a relatively new studio, and this was that hinge moment where we really decided, okay, this is how we approach our storytelling. And this is not just with a multi-million-dollar investment on this amazing opportunity from Salesforce. With everything that we do, we really try to bring that human element into the storytelling, right? And there's an opportunity with every budget, every story, every content type to pull those threads through, and it's on us to do it. And once we figure it out, we can do it at this level, and we can definitely do it with everything else. So I think it helped us identify, what we wanted to be. It helped identify us, and we're really proud of that. We really believe in that. We have passionate, folks on the team that feel really positive about impact storytelling, and anytime we can help do that. So again, it's kind of leading into like this is a whole new idea matrix for us. So we are pitching a ton of ideas about this stuff because we want to continue telling these type of stories.
Yeah, one thing, I would add, the idea that your mom could listen to this or someone in HR could listen to this is really important. And I think that this is something that I've got pushback from CEOs over the years or CMOs of oh, well, it's not a perfect fit for our demo because other people, could like it too, which I think is kind of silly. But the idea is most B2B content, nobody else. I've made 100+ B2B series, podcasts and series. The vast majority of them my wife could not listen to, right? But this one she can. And sharing the household is something that we never, ever, 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 ever talk about in B2B. You talk about it in B2C all the time. But in B2B, we never talk about it. And the fact that, your spouse and you could listen to the same thing or watch, Ecopreneurs, or, maybe you're curious about Socialverse. But the fact that you could, that it is more consumer grade, is a feature, not a bug. And just most of the stuff we make is not nearly good enough to actually be consumer grade. And like when you swing big, you can hit big. You know, I interviewed Joe Polizzi years ago on my podcast, and the two reasons that he said content marketing doesn't work are goal isn't big enough and not enough repetition. And like I think about that all the time. Like, are you creating something that has a possibility to go viral, that has a possibility for you to just drop the video and get 2 million people to watch it on YouTube, that you could, you know, like hit #1 in the charts with your show, or you know, do what Debbie said, 20 million impressions. Like so many projects that we create have no ability to go viral. They are not a big enough idea that they could sort of return all the ROI of the thing that you're doing. And like those take conviction from the brand part. And like when we were setting up in terms of like creative process, we said we looked at how many HR people like listen to podcasts. How many people listen to true crime type stuff? And like, it's a big jump to say, oh, I listen to true crime and then I'm going to listen to a fiction story. Like fiction is different. It's like completely different. And there's not a lot of people who like make fiction stuff other than studios. I mean, there is, and they're popular, but it's nowhere near as popular as like true crime. But we looked at that Venn diagram where like, I think that if we made something for both of these audiences that there's a really strong correlation between true crime and the HR community. And I think that we could make something that really fits that. And then when you're in the middle of the project and things are going horrible, because they always are horrible in the middle of the project, and there's delays and there's other stuff, and you hate where the story is at and everybody hates it, and you're all fighting because you're like, this character should do this, and there's jokes that like don't land, and you're like, trust me, this is really funny, and like, oh, you don't get this. We had this joke about Atreyu from the Neverending Story, and one of the people didn't understand the joke, and I'm like, it's okay. Like, that's fine. Just like, let's push past it. We're going to keep it in. And if somebody who likes, you know, who's an 80s kid likes, you know, the Neverending Story, they'll get the joke. And if nobody gets it, it'll go right by them. But it's just like all those little creative decisions. But if your North Star is, we're going to make something for our audience that we think that they're really going to love. We're going to treat it with respect. We're going to explore all of the different elements of what it means to be, you know, a person in HR. And we have a really strong conviction about that the audience will dig this, and we swing for the fences, like we could actually hit a home run. And so I think that like you have to have that North Star of like, this is a bet worth taking, but also know that like once you shove off, like you're burning the boats. Like there's no going back at that point. I mean, you could shelve the project, but like you have to just have the conviction that like the world needs this. And at the end of the day, like for us, like it's making a fiction podcast. You know what I mean? Like if you miss, nobody cares at all. You know what I mean? And if you hit, then, you know, lots of people love it.
I mean, it's like they always say, B2B is boring, but it doesn't have to be boring. It can be fun, and it can be educational, and it can be something that you actually really want to listen to or watch, right? And we all hit on that. And I love that all of these programs did that.
Fantastically. Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's close out then on, you know, this idea of making an impact. And I know I've gotten a couple of text messages from people wanting to know, is there a next? Is there a next Socialverse? Is there a next Ecopreneurs? Is there a next Murder Mystery? Or like what's coming next? Have these projects like sparked new ideas for you? But also I want to hear from you about how it has made an impact in other ways. With your own teams, for example, you know, how did these projects and winning awards for them make your teams feel? Let's start with you, Debbie.
Yes, there was another Socialverse. It was last year. They did rename it to CXWise. And one of our goals had been like, can we have relationships with these influencers on an ongoing basis? And so we brought Jay Barrett back as he was the host last year. And we also saw that AI, as we all know, talk about all the time, right, is a huge thing. And Sprinkler was bringing out a new AI tool. So that was heightened. And so we brought in more AI experts, more CX experts, and we had more global experts. So yes, you can go out and watch it now. I'm not sure about this year if they're it's a lot. So I'll have to double check if we're going to do it again. But yes, it happened again. And what did it spark? It sparked my presentation at Content Marketing World. It brought me here. It also made me really start diving into why was this so successful besides the fact that we had a great educational and great produced program, but it was also fully integrated. I can't tell you the number of times with influencer programs, they're told the influencers, go do your thing, and the brand will just go, okay, you're doing it. But no, the brand embraced it. It did everything. We had everybody working together. We promoted it across the board, and everybody was super excited. I love that you asked the question about the impact on the team, because I went back and asked my team, and I went back and look at what Sprinkler folks said. And Pooja, who's the director of content marketing at Sprinkler, said, "What a moment of pride. I have always looked up to Content Marketing Institute and have my work recognized, and with winning an award is more than the cherry on the cake." And then she was so excited. She's like, "We're doing it all over again. We love working with you too." So that was just, nice validation. My coworker Sam said, "I felt excitement and proud of the team. Glad to see it all come together." And another coworker, Claire, said, "Yeah, this is a huge deal." So, everybody was really excited about it, which made us really excited to enter again.
Fantastic. That's great. Okay. How about you, Megan?
Yeah, I spoke about this a little bit, but our team really is passionate about this type of storytelling. A lot of the team members that worked across this, which was everyone, really was excited about the win. Obviously, it's won a lot of awards, this particular program for us. And at this point, we are at 210 awards total for the studio. And this is almost half of, I would say 60 something or 70 are for Ecopreneurs. So listen, it built our business. We wish there was a season 2. I will say behind the scenes, there was a green light for season 2 and to continue. That was our dream. And I think it was everybody's dream also at Salesforce, and things change in terms of the timing and in terms of budgets and where marketing messaging was going. And the brand values team we worked with are no longer at Salesforce. There were just decisions being made that was just really above a green light of a program everybody loved. But I know that there was nothing about the quality of the performance. It was literally just a shift and timing. So unfortunately, there is no season 2, but what we've been able to do as Fortune Brand Studio is really take this out as a case study to tell and show other brands what we can do for them, and built the business that way, because it's something we're really passionate about, like I said. So we've just done a couple of international shoots and docu-style filmmaking. One's a short series. I can't tell you any more details, but you'll hear about them soon enough. They're launching this month, knock on wood. But again, it's the same approach where we're doing a little series, and then one's like sort of a brand film, a longer piece. So we're really excited to launch these pieces. And the reason we were able to win that business and go to Botswana and go to Spain and go places like this is because we have this amazing case study and a happy client at the end. And so it's a huge impact for not only our team mentality and the creativity, but for our bottom line. So.
Fantastic. Okay, Ian.
Yeah, so there's season 2 of Murder in HR. You should check it out. There's a pretty big cliffhanger at the end of season 1, and it's awesome. It's starring Kate Mara, Ben Schwartz, Adam Devine, Ross, aka Corporate Bro, is in it. So season 2 I think it's probably better than the first. It's absolutely insane. It's really fun. It's set in Brazil, I love it. But also, beyond that, obviously, winning the Content Marketing Award for Best Podcast was crazy and very surreal. And we just had so much inbound of just people that are like, this is so cool. And my goal has always been to push B2B marketing. And just a lot of people that were like, you actually did it. This is really cool. So we had tons and tons of people reach out, inviting us on podcasts to talk about it, things like that. I wrote and we produced a show called Scam Hunters, which last year, in partnership with ThoroughPass, about basically a disgraced CISO who gets a call from a reporter about a series of sort of elderly scams. And it's I wrote it, so I love it. But I'd go check that out. I think it's and it's starring Greg Kinnear, his first ever podcast, by the way. Greg Kinnear and Erin Moriarty from The Boys. She's fantastic as the 2 leads. And I think it just hopefully opened a lot of people's eyes to the fact that fiction in B2B is something that can move the needle a lot. And it's something that people can really love. And then also, we have a fiction TV shoot that we're going to do later this year, which I can't disclose, but we're we're going to do like an actual video, like a live action shoot, which is pretty cool, for a really cool brand. And yeah, and I think, I think that I've always think marketers can create the future. I think that, like, whether it's science fiction or all other sorts of things that are out there, like, fiction is an avenue into storytelling. Marketing is trying to predict the future. We're working quarters out. Sales team's selling right now. We're working quarters out. And so inherently fiction is super interesting and nobody ever does it. And I don't know why. And you get to control the whole narrative. Like, I'm like, this is a marketer's dream. We get to control the whole story. So we're investing a ton in video and fiction storytelling. And I think, it was the first, reason for being on that, and getting all the awards and, winning Webbies and doing all the other stuff has been, icing on the cake.
That's fantastic. All of you. I mean, just so many amazing awards and accolades, and so well deserved. We've got just a few minutes left. I'd love for each of you to give the audience, one key takeaway here. What do you want them to leave with today to help inspire them to create standout content, award-winning content, whether they have big budgets or small budgets? What's your best piece of advice, Debbie, that you can leave the audience with today?
Put yourself in the shoes of the audience. What do they want to hear? How do they want to see that stand out? What would you do if you were in their shoes? So, like, think about that. Make sure that it's content that you want to listen to, you want to hear, you want to watch, you want to read.
Great advice. Ian?
Yeah, I think you should be telling stories that are like three-dimensional character stories of your personas. Like, what they do with their kids, why they go to work every day, and layer those into your, whether it's customer testimonials or other things. I feel like we talk about business so much, but people, the reason why they want more time for the tech tool that they're buying is so that they can spend more time with their brother or their kids, or, go to the concert or whatever. So I think if we can just tell better stories, more three-dimensional stories with characters that like do bad stuff and good stuff and everything in between, that I think it'll resonate a lot more. And I think, telling those set in the future, like what trying to predict the future is really hard, but like, if you give it a shot, there's very few people that are like really trying to, paint that.
Right. And Megan?
Yeah, it's a couple things. I mean, I think it's similar to what you all have mentioned, but like leaning into those values-based impact, human storytelling, case studies, really talking about impact and sort of less of sort of corporate promise and more kind of real storytelling that feels real and can connect authentically with an audience and captivate, and then potentially captivate. Thinking big is just something you also just taking risks and saying, yeah, we can do this. We're going to do this. And as a leader within a team, like really inspiring your team to think out of their comfort zone, and work in new ways and create and collaborate with clients in new ways and think creatively every day and every second. Ground, shooting this, like, you can prepare as much as possible, but like there's little magic that happens when you're creating things. And so captivate and take hold of those moments and try to elevate your storytelling, because I'm always surprised every single day. I'm always delighted every single day. And so the pieces that you're making should really surprise and delight. I know that seems a little trite, but it's true. Like, otherwise it's just going to become another piece of content floating out there. Why not make it excellent? Take a risk and try of storytelling and working.
Can I say just really quick, one of our clients that we did a really big project for was terrified at the risk. And he was like, afterwards, he's like, literally nobody cared. It was completely made up. It was just in my head. He's like, if this thing had flopped, nobody would have cared. And the fact that it was successful was great. And like, that is so us. We're so in our own heads about, well, what if this flops? Like, like there's tons of flops out there. Like that's okay. It's like, you're trying something. Your audience will forgive you, or they'll just forget about it, which is probably what's going to happen.
And you'll learn from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been truly fantastic, educational, inspirational, and entertaining, to steal your words, Ian. And I love the surprise and delight factor that you just talked about too, Megan. Congratulations to all of you for doing such great work and helping this audience see some of this great work today.